Should be good.
Calling the regular meeting of council to order on February 22nd, 2023 at 6:02.
Be it hereby resolved that the agenda for the February 22nd, 2023 regular meeting of council be approved as per the following additions. Addition Schedule A, Bylaw 02-2023. Addition Conference Update Red River Basin, verbal. Addition Conference Update Manitoba Flood Workshop, verbal. Addition Rural Manitoba Economic Development Corp. A meeting invitation. Any other additions?
Yes, one. Sorry, there was an invitation to a fundraising fish dinner for the Red River Basin. My apologies, Sharon. Can you maybe just add that to after in camera so that I can get it to you and you can do what you need to do as far as preparing a resolution if needed? Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
What's it called?
It's the Red River Basin Conference Northern Chapter Fundraising Fish Fry Dinner.
Right. Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Kozlowski. Can I get a seconder, please? Councilor Jarvis. Call the question, all in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that the minutes of the February 8th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting be approved as circulated.
Can I have a mover, please? Councilor Gendron. Seconder, please. Councilor Jarvis. I trust everybody had a chance to review the minutes. Any changes, questions? All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council authorize administration to apply for the Manitoba Accessibility Fund grant intake for blank at a maximum cost of blank.
I trust that everybody had it. Oops, mover, please. Councilor Houle. Seconder, please. Councilor Gendron. I trust that everybody had the opportunity to read the information we were provided about the Manitoba Accessibility Fund grant. Questions, discussion? Councilor Gendron.
Just wonder if the CEO has had a chance to have any discussion with staff with regard to this?
So this particular fund was where it was strictly for accessibility. So upon review, I did have our admin staff look through the grant, provide the report that is attached as to what's eligible project, not eligible projects. So capital improvements are not eligible projects, so such as providing accessibility to the arena, those types of projects aren't eligible for this particular intake of the grant. So the administrative staff did provide some recommendations for council to consider, being review of current community events and make accessibility. So the idea there was in reference to the bandstand, being able to have a sign interpreter for the music would be an eligible grant. I caution council, we have not reviewed looking at expense along those lines. Once you add that kind of service, be prepared to then continue in future years. Have the website reviewed for accessibility, so that is another eligible grant that can be done. Project that can be done under this grant. Upgrade existing signage, so there is some signage that is still placed out along the boardwalk or walkway. I'm not sure where. Updating those signs to be accessible would also be an eligible item under this grant. and then it has in reference to current communication mediums, and make that accessible as well. So those really are the only recommendations coming through that would work for this community, and so it's up to council to take a look at those items, to see if one of those items is something that we would like to apply for at this time. So again, this is a grant up to $50,000, and there is at 100% as well. So it's not as if there's a capital outlay as well. So I'm not saying we would be successful. If the CAO was to add an additional recommendation to that is without a doubt. I mean, our website is somewhat more updated than other municipalities, but that definitely is something we could look at embedding, or the upgrading existing signs is always a great idea for something like this, because it's a one and done, but yet the impact lasts forever, right? So,
Discussion? No? So I see that the recommendation is that we look at option 2. Those recommendations, all in favor? Carried.
be it hereby resolved that Mayor Jackson be appointed as council rep for the East Interlake Watershed District, Willow Creek Sub-District.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please, Councillor Kozlowski. Discussion. Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that council authorize Mayor Pam Jackson to attend the East Interlake Watershed Sub-District meeting on March 7th, 2023 at Toulon Rockwood Centennial Center.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Gendron. Discussion? Councillor Gendron.
So just a question, anytime, if we are the sitting rep on a committee or something, is there a requirement for a motion to be passed for our attendance at events?
I'll defer to our CAO in that regard.
So there's two options. The reason that I like to have the resolution in reference to attendance, because there is that piece of with travel per diem that it's open transparent, as the expense sheets at this point are not placed on the agenda for public to view. So I think it is a way for the public to know that there is movement, that council is actively participating in some of the committees and initiatives that are within the community. Certainly that is something that we can look at whether or not it's required. I can update the organizational bylaw to state that it's not required at that point, but it is quite common process to list the attendance, just so that there is no controversy if there is a council member who submits an expense sheet that there was nothing that was attended that wasn't approved.
Sounds good.
So, question, if once a month, should those be coming for approval?
I think that
attendance?
if it's the regular meetings as part of the structure of the organization, those aren't required.
Okay.
It's all of these additional sort of one-ups through there, and so this is on the agenda because the reps for the committees have not, the bylaw hasn't had third and final readings, so it's in reference to that. But some of the offshoots of where there are separate conferences, different things through there. Again, it is council preference, and council can review that and direct accordingly.
Other discussion or questions, responses to that?
Just
Councillor Gendron?
It makes a lot of sense. And again, recognizing that we have not yet firmed up who's on what, that the regular meetings would not require it, but anything over and above. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that for clarification.
Okay.
Sharon?
Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that the correspondence be accepted as circulated.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please. Councillor Kozlowski. I trust that everybody's had an opportunity to, excuse me, review all of the correspondence. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Gendron?
Yeah, the Kingfisher walleye turnaround and the postponement.
Yes, what would you like to say about
Having our money refunded does not appear to have been an option. We made a decision to support them on their winter,
that?
because it was tying in with our wonderful winter weekend.
That's right.
We'd just like to know perhaps what others' thoughts are on the fact that that was the buy-in there, and that it appears it was not even an offer on the cancellation of that.
And I believe that we had donated,
500.
I thought it was 500, that's what I was looking at with Councillor Jarvis.
I personally would prefer that we ask for the money to be returned and look at and ask again if in fact it goes again.
Councillor Kozlowski and then Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I thought they did return. There was a note earlier that they did return 500.
So I did have earlier conversations with the organizer, and they did mention that it may take some time just to sort through the paperwork, but they did expect to be returning the funds. We have not received the funds to date.
And
Councillor Jarvis. And
I'm
then
just backing up what Larry said. I read that as well. They were returning the money. They said it would be reimbursed.
Right, and that was a communication about a month ago, correct?
6 weeks maybe.
Yeah, and they said they were going to return it, but Councillor Gendron's point is that this communication looks like they're not offering that as an option. Councillor Gendron.
yeah, so I would like to recommend that we ask the CO to be in contact with them to say, no, our preference is a refund, and that if they have another one going, that they do another ask.
What do other people think about that? Councillor Jarvis?
I concur. I think that any future involvement with them would be helpful if they turn the money back.
Okay. Councillor Houle?
Yeah, I agree.
Councillor Kozlowski?
Yeah, for sure. I brought that, I think, to CAO's attention that they were refunding some monies back because of some inconsistencies with their program. And I think she followed up the next morning and said we would be getting our $500 back. So yeah, I'm for it that they return that $500.
Any questions?
No, that's, I will follow up with that.
Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council approves the check accounts payable listing being check number 20220909 to number 20220994, inclusive of checks, visa charges, and electronic payments issued in the amount of $112,686.91 as circulated.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Gendron. I trust everybody's had a chance to go over the financials, the payables. Any questions, comments? Councillor?
Couple questions. Skate laces equipment. What is that regarding $329?
So it's my understanding that the rec department offers, picks up some supplies so that when, such as skate laces at the community center, so that if laces are broken, participants can purchase that equipment.
Is this a yearly submission from Parks and Recs to us? Or?
It's difficult for me to say, being here only for a short period of time. I don't know what is past practice. So we are looking at the organizational structure of the rec department and having more transparency brought forward with council as to whether or not that is something we want to continue to offer, but I do believe that they offer a variety of merchandise, lack of a better word, for the programming that they offer. So that, like, if laces are broken, people can still participate.
And we
in
got a
purchasing
count
it.
of how many, and we got.
I believe that the rec manager does have a count and keeps a list of inventory, but I certainly can verify that.
Councillor Rule?
Yeah, you're correct. They are available for sale, but also the skates that we loan out, because we do offer skates for people if they want to come for public skating. If a lace breaks at that point, then we can repair it. So those are in-house skates.
Oh,
How many sets of skates do we have that,
I would say 40 at
There's
least.
lots.
At least. Yeah. We would like donations for more because the sizes vary,
yeah,
but in time.
okay, great, thank you, Councillor Rule. Any other discussion about finances, Councillor Kozlowski?
Check number 929. Cat impoundment again, impoundment.
okay.
And we do something about this and not pay for this any longer. I know this came up a month or two ago where we paid, I think, about the same price, $500-600, taking cats and taking them to Gimli. And no, I think that should be the responsibility of the pet owner, not the town.
I believe that these are stray cats that are found, but, Councillor Chamberlain?
I did take a close look at this charge when I was signing the checks today, and it was 2 cats for the required impoundment of 7 days per cat at a charge of $35 a day. So I took a close look at it, and so that's what it was 2 cats. And I believe we can't do anything about our requirement of the 7 days. That's not our rule, it's not our doing. It's a requirement of us and our requirement to have animal control and the minimum number of days that the cat is to be held for. So my understanding is there's nothing we can do about this.
Councillor Rule?
Yes, and you're right about the minimum amount of days, and also a lot of the cats that are feral. They're wild cats. Very rarely was Chris picking up cats of homeowners. Yeah.
So what do they do after the 7 days? They euthanize or what happens with them?
They're either, well, so that would be at the discretion of that entity that the cats are dropped to. So yeah, there is the possibility of either them being euthanized or found their forever home, right? So the only way to minimize this level of expense is just, again, it's the balance of the service delivery standard we offer with animal control. We are bound by other legislation on how long that the animals must be housed, how they must be housed, etc. So if we're looking at this expense, the only other option is to not provide animal control in reference to stray cats.
And if people will remember, years ago before we had this, one of our things that we were popular for, or famous for, was the number of stray cats we had walking around downtown Winnipeg Beach. And that wasn't very good. So this seems to be the best decision and the worst options. Lesser of two evils. Any other comments or questions about that, or about any of the payables?
No, I guess one other question about a check. I'm finished with the cat situation.
I'll finish with the cats? Okay, we'll go to Councillor Jarvis, and then we'll come back to Councillor Jarvis.
And maybe I missed it there, but after the 7 days, and we talked about euthanizing that, but, I mean, they certainly just don't release them, so if they don't euthanize them, and do we continue to pay for this, or?
No.
No.
So we're bound at that point by the 7 day rule. After the 7 days, then
The shelter.
then has sort of.
So they assume the responsibility of the financial and otherwise.
Correct.
Any other questions about the cats? No? We're good on the cats? Councillor Kozlowski?
950, is that the firefighters? Check 950?
No, so Check 950 is to Tax Service. So Tax Service is an organization that that is used in reference to the tax sale process. So when we have properties, we've designated a tax sale year. Any properties that have 2 years or more in arrears are subject to tax sale. And so we have sent the letters out to the property owners, letting them know that they had a deadline, I believe, of January 31st to clear up the outstanding tax balance on their account. If not, then that file was transferred off to tax service. So this check here is to tax service themselves for following up with that process. So their initial charge of taking ownership of a property or a file that is under the tax sale process, that is their initial fee per property. So although we have this expenditure coming out, what happens is those charges are then charged to the property tax owner. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Do we recoup this?
that's, yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on the financials? No, thank you, Councillor Kozlowski. All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council approves the February employee payroll as circulated, amounting to 60,690.61 cents.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please, Councillor Kozlowski. All the question, any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Whereas section 173-1 of the Municipal Act provides for the borrowing of money for operating expenses during the fiscal year, and whereas any money borrowed must not exceed the amount collected in taxes and grant in lieu of taxes in the previous year, and whereas municipal portion of taxes and grant in lieu of taxes levied in 2022 amounted to $1,996,334.90 for the town of Winnipeg Beach. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Winnipeg Beach borrow money in the amount of $500,000 by means of line of credit at Access Credit Union, Winnipeg Beach, for operating expenses, and further that the town does mortgage and pledge to Access Credit Union all taxes be collected for the current year as security for repayment of the amount borrowed, and that mayor, deputy mayor, CAO, and finance officer are authorized to execute on behalf of the town as necessary documents to give effect to the foregoing.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gendron. Seconder, please. Councillor Jarvis. Call the question, discussion?
Go ahead.
Councillor Gendron first.
Thank you. So I understand we have a large amount of money out, awaiting the submission of our DFA claim, and that we are not the only municipality in a position where we have to borrow because of our increased expenses due to the flooding situation last year. So my only question is, do we know if the cost of borrowing is something that we are able to claim under our DFA claim?
I don't believe that the cost of borrowing is cost eligible. Please keep in mind, councils, having a line of credit on an operating account for most municipalities is quite standard. The fact that we're operating for over 6 months out of a year before funds are received for those operating expenses, it is quite normal practice. I believe that once more continuity in reference to the operations are in place. How often, except for unforeseen circumstance, and this is really more about that safety net as well, unpredictability of the potential flooding for the upcoming year, is just having that safety net, because all of the large expenses that happen during that process is prior to our tax deadline due date, whereas that's in August, we do see the influx of revenue that was budgeted for.
Thank you.
And Councillor Hool and then Councillor Kozlowski.
No, I'm good. It was answered fine.
And what is the interest rate? Is it prime plus or any idea?
At this point, this is just the early inception, so without the resolution moving forward, that is a requirement that the bank does require for us to then move into that next phase of entering into actually signed agreement.
They
So-
won't even give us a hint roughly. Then.
At this point, no, I didn't ask. I'm thinking it's usually quite standard for a municipality. It would be prime plus 2 top,
2%.
I would think, but I certainly don't want to hold Access accountable for that at this time.
Okay, and the deputy mayor and FO, is that not the same position?
No, so the deputy mayor is Councillor Gendron and the finance officer is Tara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was listed as that is who currently has signing authority through the financial institution at the time.
Thank you.
Councillor Jarvis? Any questions, comments? No? You good? Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that council for the town of Winnipeg Beach hereby give first reading to council indemnity bylaw 01-2023.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please. Councillor Gendron. I trust that everybody's had an opportunity to read the newest version of our indemnity bylaw and have had opportunity to make their comments known. Is there any further discussion on this bylaw? Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that council for the town of Winnipeg Beach hereby gives second reading to council indemnity bylaw 01-2023.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Gendron. Seconder, please. Councillor Jarvis. Further discussion? Councillor Gendron.
Just a procedural question. Third reading, are we waiting until the next council meeting for third reading, or will we do a special meeting over the phone for a vote on third reading to get these implemented sooner rather than later?
So it is scheduled when we give third and final reading that it should be at a regular meeting of council.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that council for the town of Winnipeg Beach hereby give first reading to organizational bylaws 02-2023.
Can I get a mover, please? Anybody? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please. Councillor Kozlowski. I trust people had the opportunity to look at the new and clean organizational bylaw. Any,
Just a question,
Councillor Gendron?
sorry. 02-2023?
Correct.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Not reading correctly. Yep, thank you. Answered my own question.
Okay, good.
So the only outstanding item on that bylaw, so second reading, it is recommended because we are making some amendments with the Schedule A, that second reading be deferred to or tabled to the following meeting. So it is just in order to fill in the Schedule A in reference to the committee reps.
So have people had an opportunity, we talked about this, I think, our last regular meeting, and I believe you also had some conversation at the COW meeting at the beginning of the month in terms of the standing committees and the external committees and boards. So I'd like to have a fuller discussion now in terms of people's interest in being chair or member of the standing committees of council, and also people's interest in the external committees and boards. following the new organizational bylaw. I have some recommendations, but I would like to hear from council first. Anybody, really? Councillor Gendron.
Surprise, surprise. I would be interested in maintaining my relationship with finance and personnel. And then another question I have is that we had talked about any of the committees that involve meetings with staff. We have to be available, should be available during the day for those.
With minutes being taken.
Yeah, and then, now public safety, we talked about, our fire chief has a day job, so those meetings will most likely happen evenings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanna make sure none of that changed
Yeah.
before I consider what I'm gonna do. Okay.
Okay. Councillor Houle. What, I was thinking about you for public safety, Councillor Houle, because of the fire chief, because most of that is gonna be in the evenings, and also your interest a while ago at looking at water rescue and those kinds of things.
I think
Is that
I'd rather
something that
remain
you're
on
interested
public works or recreation, to be truthful.
in? Okay, and will you be able to have meetings during the day?
I'll have to figure something out. I'll have to talk to the MSO as well, because we had a discussion with her about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so what direction are you needing from her?
I don't know yet, I need to talk to her, but I'm interested in public works and or recreation.
Okay, and do you have a preference to public works or recreation?
Well, it looks like there's 5, so we're each gonna get 1, by the looks of it, so I guess, public works would be better for me.
There can be 2 reps, like there is the chairperson and
Yep.
then the member reps.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
So right now, we're just looking at the chair, and then we're gonna look at the
Yeah.
member reps. So Barry, you're suggesting that you would prefer public works?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Kozlowski, do you have, preference?
Recreation maybe?
And Councillor Jarvis, were you thinking about,
No, I'm okay.
what were you thinking about that you wanted to take responsibility for?
Whatever's left over. It doesn't matter. I have no interest in it, so. I'll take whatever's left over.
Okay, so Councillor Kozlowski, you wanted to take recreation?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Jarvis, would you take public safety?
Sure.
I'll take economic development. Now, we're gonna be having chairs and also the members, and so the members will be from council as well. I would like to be sitting as a member for Public Works. Who's interested in sitting as a member with Larry on Recreation? Councillor Houle? Who would be interested in sitting with Doug on Public Safety? So either Councillor Gendron or Councillor Kozlowski.
Either or.
Do you guys want to work
No,
it out?
I'll default to development, that's fine, that's not an issue.
So Public Safety is Larry. And that means Councillor Jarvis, you'll be member on Finance?
Sure.
So it will be the responsibilities of the chair people to call the meetings and inform the member And I believe the organizational chart said once a month, Sharon?
No, for the standing committees, each committee is able to set up that meeting schedule as fits for them. So
Okay.
it's not under that same structure there.
Right, it
So
doesn't
there
have to
is
be
that
once a month.
clause through there, yeah.
But it is up to the chair to call the meeting and inform the member of when the meeting is.
Yeah, like once the schedule is set there, of what that looks like, unless for unforeseen circumstance, then that's when the chair would call a meeting. But once we have a schedule in place, then that would almost be predetermined.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Let's look at the external committees.
And so with the external committees, I do have administration gathering as much data in reference to how often they meet, when they meet, as well as some background information for the organization. And so the reason this is listed as Schedule A of the bylaw is that it can be amended by resolution of council and not have to amend the bylaw itself. So in the case of Age Friendly, when I look back through there, I don't see that it has been active, but it has been on the list for quite some time. Don't feel the need that we need to appoint representation at this time unless there is a passion amongst council who wants to get involved in this committee. So until we have a better listing as to, again, the committees themselves, how often they meet, and availability of council to be on that board. So it can be left at this point either by appointment or leave that blank at this time for the resolution update.
Okay. So we have the Community Futures, East Interlake. I have been attending those meetings. However, we also need an alternate. Anybody interested?
Question, can you tell us a little bit about what Community Futures is?
Oh, Community Futures does a whole lot of stuff, but it supports small businesses and communities. It supports startup businesses. It also supports councils and municipalities. So, for example, if we were looking at doing a forum here, we might ask Community Futures to do that.
My apologies, it's all coming back to me the minute you started answering it, because we've had discussions about Community Futures.
Yes.
Sorry, Pam.
Yes. Okay, we've got East Interlake Handy Van. Councillor Gendron, Councillor Houle. Last term, when you two were on council, were either of you on this, and do you know what they do? And how critical our representation is on that committee?
The mayor Pimentel was the rep on East Interlake and Ben. Do you recall? Yeah?
I do recall being on there. I actually tried to attend a meeting this year, and when I went there, they canceled the meeting because there was not enough turnout. So, and they're held at Gimli in City Hall there. I don't know exactly, it would have been my first actual meeting with these guys.
Okay.
So, they rescheduled that meeting. Again, I don't know much about it. It was gonna be my introduction when I got there.
Was it a daytime meeting there or an evening?
Afternoon.
It was afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, instead of pulling that tooth, can we move on and maybe revisit that one?
Okay, East Interlake Planning District and East Interlake Watershed District. I've been on both of those. The East Interlake Planning District, we need a second person. They always want 2 representatives from council. Councillor Gendron.
Yeah, I'd be interested in both of those, in the water, and it kind of ties into the Red River Basin that I'm interested in sticking with after the conference. So unless
Okay.
anyone else is wanting on those.
So East Central Lake Planning will be myself and Councillor Gendron. Are you copying this down?
Yeah.
Because I'm not getting it. And, East Central Lake Watershed District will be myself and Councillor Gendron. Okay, emergency measures. Councillor Hill?
Yep.
You're wanting to be on that one?
Sure.
Okay. Evergreen Basic Needs, I have been on that, but if anybody else is interested. No? Okay. Gimli Seniors Resource. Councilor Kozlowski, you're interested in that?
Sure.
Brilliant. East Interlake Regional Health Authority. I have been sitting on that, although I haven't been notified of meetings for a while. Is anybody else interested in that?
I will.
Thank you, Jane, Councilor Jane. Interlake Tourism,
I'll stick with that one if,
Interlake Women's Resource Center. I've been liaison there, so I can continue doing that. Red River Basin,
oh,
Councilor Gendron.
thank you.
Selkirk Weed Board.
I'll stay on.
Have you been attending meetings, Councilor
Yep.
Jarvis? And can you please let us know what it's about and what kinds of things are being discussed? Because I'm not sure. I've been trying to do some research to see what is going on there, but I'm not sure. I'm not very clear. So what have the meetings been about?
Well, right now, they've lost one longtime employee, and we only had one meeting. And I know a couple of people, I don't know all of the people, but it's more or less the weed control through the highways through the Winnipeg Beach. So one of the things, the only thing that we're interested in right now, we're gonna put a resolution for the next AMM, is that they've removed loosestrife from the noxious weed. And myself and another gentleman from St. Andrews are trying to get it put back on there, because we do have purple loosestrife happening through Highway 9.
Yeah, we
So it's their responsibility to look after that. So
Okay, so
the
that,
only thing that we've established right now is trying to get purple loosestrife back on the noxious weed list.
okay,
And that's really all. It's kind of an informal meeting,
okay.
but I'll stay on it.
Thank you, Councilor Jarvis. Winnipeg Beach Legion Liaison. Councilor Kozlowski. Winnipeg Beach Harbor Authority. Councilor Gendron.
As well as the curling club, unless,
Councilor Gendron will be on the curling club. West Shore Citizens on Patrol. Do we even,
yeah, we do.
Councilor Jarvis,
We have
given
a-
that you're on public safety, do you want to be on this?
Yeah, I can take it. Unless Barry wants it. Do you want it?
Yeah, give it to you.
I'll take it.
And I think,
Yeah, I did have the resident appointee, I wasn't sure if that, I'm still waiting for some follow-up, is that still a requirement or not, and so.
it is still a requirement, having been at the last number of meetings. Don Pepe has been sitting on as our community rep for the last number of years, since he was mayor in 2010. And I have had occasion to run into him at all the meetings, and he approached me and said he
Would
is
continue,
really committed and really
Okay.
wants to continue
perfect.
as our community rep. Okay.
What do we miss now?
So we have everything?
No.
Counselor Houle, you're not on, are you on any of the, external committees? Or are there some that you're interested in that,
No, I'm on emergency measures.
okay, are there anyone, other ones that you're
No, I'm
interested
fine, thank you, it's good.
in? Okay,
So I did just have one question in reference with Red River Basin. I do see that they do have like North Shore, South Shore, there's various branches of that. Is that all encompassing for all of those items or, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's, yeah, so we belong to the North Shore sort of area, but then there's Red River Basin events as a whole that
Yeah.
I would, so it's
Okay.
all encompassing, anything to do under that banner.
okay. I'm not sure whether in the past, communication had been sent out to each of these organizations about who the representative was gonna be, so now that we've got this, can we make sure that that gets?
That is correct, yeah.
Thank you. That was painless. So anything else on the organizational bylaw? All in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that Council for the Town of Winnipeg Beach hereby gives first reading to the procedural bylaws 03-2023.
We're not doing the second one on the organization?
No, because I would prefer to make the amendments.
Right,
and then
of course
give
I do
second
that.
and third reading.
Can I get a mover, please, on the procedural bylaw? Councillor Kozlowski. Seconder, please. Councillor Jarvis. People had an opportunity to look at the procedural bylaw. Any questions, comments, points of discussion about any of this? No? Hearing none, call the question, all in favor? Carried.
Be it resolved that Council for the Town of Winnipeg Beach hereby gives second reading to procedural bylaws 03-2023.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please. Councillor Gendron. All in favor? Carried.
Whereas Resolution 2022-160 authorized the CAO to enter into an agreement for the installation of 3 piers for the Town of Winnipeg Beach with Sundance Construction for the year 2022, with an option to extend the agreement for 2 more years. And whereas concerns on quality and construction delays were identified within the scope of work, therefore be it resolved that Council does not exercise the option to extend the agreement for an additional 2 years.
Can I have a mover, please?
You sure can.
Councillor Gendron. Seconder, please. Councillor Jarvis. Discussion. Councillor
Where is
Kozlowski first.
Sundance located? What municipality, are they in Winnipeg Beach or they're in Winnipeg Beach?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Gendron.
So just for those at the table that were not at the table last year during this, just a little bit of history. There were significant deficiencies, difficulties with deadlines. Councillor Hull, you can correct me if anything I'm saying is not as you recall it, but, and it was repeated conversations with the CAO, and they finally came out to a meeting with all of council, for council to discuss the concerns that were being made, and I think based on having been here when all of that happened, that this is probably a good move both financially and for the quality of, or the style of pier that we are wanting. But I don't believe they are in Winnipeg Beach, I believe they're in Sandy Hook.
Sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah, they're in Sandy Hook.
Other discussion? Councillor Hool, did you have anything to add to that, given your own council at the time?
The reason why the piers didn't go out as long as the reasoning why is that apparently the water levels, right? The water levels were really high and there's a bunch of, we felt were excuses, I believe. I'm hoping going forward we have a minimum or a maximum. I mean, the minimum, whatever the length was last year, I think would be the minimum, because the water was at its.
But just to,
Councillor
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I want to hear Chess. She's probably got input on my.
Okay, Councillor.
Sorry about that, Councillor Hall. Yeah, one of the points that was made was that piers in Matlock and were the length that we're used to having our piers, yet they were saying that it was water issues and national standards and all kinds of things, yet it's on the same lake and the same effect, and so,
Okay.
yeah, sorry, that was what I wanted to, sorry, Mayor.
No, valid.
No.
I just hope that the piers can be far better than last year. And we ran into some issues with overages on wood and, I mean, I think this needs to be monitored quite carefully by our public works.
Absolutely. Councillor Janda.
Yeah, I don't believe the things that Councillor Hull is mentioning were in the specs when it went out, or in the agreement when it was written up. So while it wasn't there, I think we were a little bit responsible for some of that because it wasn't specified.
Okay, Councillor Kozlowski.
Is there a maximum and a minimum, or is this going towards the water levels? Because on a minimum, they're using a lot less materials. Maximum, they're using more materials. So how's it written up in the contract?
I believe up until last year, they've always been, the piers have always been the same size every year and the same length every year. It was last year that the contractors changed the length, saying it was because of the water levels. But there's some question as to that because Matlock had the same kinds of water levels we did, and they still had the same length of piers they've had previous years.
So does that price fluctuate every year, or are we in it with a contract where it remains the same?
Councillor Hool?
I believe last year when the piers were built, it actually ended up costing us more money, did it not? Can I refer to?
Yes, you can refer to Councillor Janda.
Are you okay if the two of us refer to each other during this conversation?
Yes.
Actually, sorry, can you repeat that? What did you say?
I believe it actually cost us a little bit more last year in material to build the piers. Was that not?
Oh, the increase, so we had the same builders for years. They were no longer available. So we had to go out, we went out to tender, and the increase in cost from our previous pier builder was extremely large. And now, actually, I'm thinking about it, there were specs in the tender that were not met, was the problem. And these were the reasons we were given as to why they weren't met. But, yeah,
There was also some discussion about possibly looking at an aluminum pier at some point.
I thought you had mentioned something like that.
And that would be a one-time cost, gets put in and put out every year, the same thing, but you know, it's not, traditionalists might have a bit of a problem with it, but you know, I mean, it might be something that we want to look at, maybe just starting with one, see how it goes at some point, because like after last year was kind of a sticker shock.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, you know, I think people would appreciate them more if they knew how much it cost, but it is very expensive. And I'm assuming that there's probably some validity to the water levels, obviously, because you know, wetsuits and danger and all that other sort of thing. But again, I know the minimum maximum thing, it would fluctuate as well, you know. But I mean, I would think the piers we had last year would be the minimum. I can't see them being any smaller, or you have a diving board essentially, right? So I don't know if there was a measurement taken of those piers. I'm sure there was last year. So I mean, if we can maybe speak to Public Works and, because I know they're checking on every once in a while, maybe we'll have an idea of what we're expecting next year, or this year, sorry.
Councillor Jenkins?
Yeah, it was when we had the, meeting with the contractor that, Councillor Carey at the time had said he'd been out here 40 years and had never had this was the smallest the Pierce had ever been in his 40 years out here. And I mean, the unfortunate thing is that if this is going to continue to be an increased cost, when it comes to budget, I guess we have to look at what's the most we're willing to spend on this, and can we continue to maintain 3 of them? There used to be 4, 1 from 10th is gone, we went down to 2, one at 7th wasn't there for a very long time, went back to 3. But I just, unfortunately, it might have to be something we may need to look at. Come budget
Did you
time.
want to talk about Public Works taking it, or leave that to you? Okay. Okay, any other conversation on this particular resolution about Sundance?
Does this go up to tender every 3 years, 2 years, whenever we sign the contract, or we just
So
stick with the same?
Yeah, I can't comment in the past as what's going on. There are some options being looked at this point. This resolution is due to the fact that last year when the tender went out, it was for a 3-year period. However, the council resolution had stated it was authorized with Sundance for 1 year with its option to exercise that company and continue the obligation for the next 2 years. So this, at this point, is just closing the file on that resolution in the past of stating, okay, based on the concerns council's not exercising its option to have Sundance continue for the next 2 years. In regards to 2023 and future years with the peers, there are some discussions taking place right now as to looking at options, and certainly as Councillor Houle had mentioned with the aluminum pier as well, what does that look like? So there has been no concrete decision made in reference to that. I do expect some additional information now moving forward as this is closed. What the next steps are for 2023, this item will be coming back for council.
Is this the same outfit that does Matlock, Sandy Hook?
That is not the same outfit. So I do know, I believe Denaudher, I can't comment on Matlock at this time, but I do believe that Denaudher does place their piers in-house, so their works department actually puts the piers in. I did not have a conversation with our works department regarding Matlock. It may be similar with Matlock as well, but that is, like I said, they're researching some information, and we do expect this this item to come forward. So
Okay.
So would it be an in-house, maybe an idea to maybe check our in-house if they could use, or?
So there are several options that we are just looking at this point, and no definitive has been made. So until we close the chapter on the current existing contract, moving forward is the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
So next item on the agenda has no resolution. It was really just for some information purposes, but recognizing there could be some direction needed provided. It was not listed under correspondence in reference to the mood disorders, Manitoba Mood Disorders Association. So I did have, there is some information regarding the brochure and some of their weekly schedules. So if this is of interest of council, I'm looking for direction at this point as to where a good fit would this lie through. Is this something that we want to encourage through the existing working in relationship with the health authority and the clinic location? Is this something that we want to find an alternative location, possibly at the rec facility, or is this something that needs, again, first heard, deferred? You certainly can just mull this over and bring forward recommendations, but I didn't want this just to get lumped under correspondence without having that conversation.
Certainly having given it some thought and having a short discussion with yourself, Sharon, given that I'm in the field, with the reported levels of anxiety and depression, they're at an all-time high everywhere, and certainly in rural Manitoba more than cities, urban places at this point. So I would be very supportive of mood disorders coming out here and doing even a couple of general sessions around anxiety, depression, things we can be doing on our own to decrease the impact of some of these things. Just a general information session. I think it would be fantastic if we connected with our health clinic out here, and maybe with our health clinic in conjunction with the rec center. And maybe it happening at the rec center, because I'm sure that the health clinic doesn't have the room for that. But just, advertising the heck out of it and having mood disorders come out and do a couple of open sessions for people, just education, information. This is what the different symptoms might look like, and if you're experiencing any of these things, these are some things you can do to help yourself, and just to sort of check those things out and make it available to our constituents. Just some initial thoughts, Councillor Gendron, and then it looks like Councillor Kozlowski has something to say.
I wonder if we want to start on our website almost a little community health corner or something, and I think if we go that route, this would certainly be a good organization to start with. Having him draw something up that we can have on our website, a link, link to other services available.
I think that would probably be a really good idea, in terms of, you've been struggling emotionally,
Yeah.
click here. I think that would be one good resource, except a number of our seniors are not on the
Oh,
website.
absolutely, and
So
I
having something in
do
person
like
as
the
well.
I do like the idea of connecting them with, there's more to a community center than physical activities, and mental well-being is important, and I think, connecting him with recreation, and perhaps looking at him being able to offer, I don't know, a monthly, come on and let's talk as a group, or, something on a bit of a regular basis in there, and not necessarily weekly, but maybe monthly.
Mhm.
I think it would be certainly a good use of the community center and something to offer the community.
Mhm. And I think it would be a really nice thing to do in conjunction with our health clinic, so that we can be
Yeah.
doing some stuff in tandem with each other. Councillor Kozlowski?
Yeah, I agree with Mayor and Councillor Wu as well. It's a great idea. The children also have a Health 911 line for them as well throughout Canada,
Mhm.
which is used extensively.
Yes, it is.
Whether this be a one-on-one basis, or some people might not like a group situation where they get up and speak out because they're,
Yeah.
So I think it would be a great idea for the community as well, whether it be monthly, every 3 months, 6 months. So I'm in full agreement.
Councillor Houle, Councillor Jarvis, do you have any thoughts on?
I agree with myself as well.
Okay, I'm now the finance
you,
officer
Councillor
and Councillor Holt.
Perfect, so we'll gather some additional information
Okay.
and start making some appropriate contacts.
Thank you.
So be it hereby resolved that council approve blank to meet with council for the arm of Gimli at Gimli Council Chambers on March 14th, 2023 to discuss shared initiatives.
Right, can I get a mover, please? Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please. Councillor Gendron. So we have been talking about being able to work more collaboratively with our neighbors, and I think people had an opportunity to read the email link between our CAO and the CAO in Gimli. So, discussion? Questions, comments? I believe in, yes, Councillor Gendron.
I would like to attend if possible.
Okay. The meeting is for March 15th, I believe.
14.
14th,
I do that.
noonish.
March 14th at around noon, I understand, because it's for
Correct.
lunch. That's brilliant. At the Gimli offices, who else can attend? I know I will be attending. Councillor Jarvis will attend, Councillor Kozlowski will attend, and Councillor Gendron, and Councillor Houle. Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's a first.
Good on us.
Way to go, council.
So I will then revise the resolution to just say hereby, be it hereby resolved that council is approved instead of listing everyone.
All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that the CAO be authorized to sign the service contract between the town of Winnipeg Beach and Simcoe for the startup and shutdown of the refrigeration services for the Arena and Curling Club.
Can I get a mover, please? Anybody? Councillor Gendron. Seconder, please. Councillor Jarvis. Questions? Councillor Jarvis.
Who's been doing this startup and shutdown in the past?
So there was Prairie HVAC in the past. There is no signed contract through there. There has been some challenges from my understanding with Prairie HVAC and our systems. As far as with the curling club, I did have discussions with a contact today. Their longtime person who is certified, not necessarily part of a big company, is no longer available due to health reasons. So they are at not sure where they are looking to go. In further discussions with the curling club in the past, that has been an expense borne solely by the club itself, although I can appreciate that. The fact remains that that is still a town-owned building and town-owned responsibility, and without and when we look at the onus of the startup shutdown process, because there is a lot more to it than just starting the plant, ending the plant. They do a review of the condensers, compressors, the pumps, lines, etc. When we look at cost effectiveness of smaller clubs, there may be a level of service that isn't being conducted as a result of cost-saving measures, and it is my recommendation that the town, as it is a town-owned building, that those startup and shutdown costs that include those inspections are borne solely by the town and not put on the cost of the club itself, so that we can get foresight in reference to some of these big ticket items of replacement needs far more in advance than waiting for them to bust and break and then be in a panic emergency situation.
Do we have anybody that has when I say the acumen Joe, or somebody that can at least be there with these people, or?
We do. There is a level of certification that is required for this that we do not have at that time, and so even working in conjunction with our works department as we make that shift of building obligations to that department, it is still the recommendation through the works manager as well that we do have to have an exterior company do that process.
So, okay, go ahead.
No, sir.
No, it was,
Get away with that anymore. I certainly welcome this, considering that I was at the community center one day and our recreation manager had to put on her fire department gear to go check something out. We lucked out in the fact that she's a member of our fire department. Again, we have aging infrastructure when you're dealing with this kind of equipment and chemicals and potentially hazardous materials. I don't think it is something that we should be leaving up to our staff. I am looking forward to, as the curling club rep, some discussions with the curling club and yourself, Sharon, and bringing things back to council. I think things are evolving and happening with that building. It is our building, and I think we need to really take a good look at what we are expecting of that volunteer board to be doing and funding in a piece of aging infrastructure, and how we can work more collaboratively moving forward to be able to keep curling in our community without it living with the constant fear of, are we gonna make it another season because of the aging infrastructure and what costs they're bearing. So, but when I was in there that day and Carissa had her firefighting gear on to attend to something, I think it's very important we have a company behind us for startup, shutdown, repairs, monitoring.
Councillor Houle?
Two things, did we tender this out?
That was my question.
So it wasn't tendered out. We did have some previous costs in reference with Curry HVAC. It is limited in reference to the companies that are out through here, and so the working relationship there is within Simcoe itself, that it is there are a level of locality of employee base from Simcoe. So having that ability to have someone attend the site on an expedited manner was a plus. We certainly can, if council is choosing to tender that out. I can say there are few and far between companies when we look at within proximities and cost through there.
Okay, Councillor Jarvis?
Yeah, that was what Barry said, that was what I was going with tendering, but there is Randar, I think, in Selkirk does this as well. And I've heard a lot about Simcoe. I like Simcoe, and I think we should have some of these contracts, these maintenance contracts. I've used them before, but some of these, it would be in our best interest to get 2 or 3 people.
Councillor Houle?
Yeah, I'm not mistaken too, I think, and maybe you can check up on this, I thought Joe had certification with plant maintenance.
He has some level of certification, but he's not at the point of as to going through this process. So, and that's even with some of the training, even the brine, for example. Public Works is working with Simcoe to get training so that they're able to even mix the brine themselves through there. So there is a lot of scope, out of scope of where the current qualifications with staff lie as to what legally we require as certification for that, and we don't have that at this time.
Yeah, I'm just a little more concerned that we didn't, tender this out, that's all.
Councillor Jarvis?
Again, I agree with the tender, and there are, I'm not suggesting that Joe do it, I'm just suggesting that we should have somebody at least oversee as they're doing the contract, and I still stick that, I know Randar is involved in it, and we might be able to find somebody else, because as previously mentioned, there are toxic fumes, there's toxic chemicals that are involved, and it has been taken over by the federal legislation, because of some older rinks.
Of which ours would qualify.
Yeah, so I think it should be tendered as well.
Okay.
Councillor Gendon?
We are putting an awful lot on Joe's shoulders. These are professionals. I think if we hire them, if we hire a professional company to do the job, I don't know if we necessarily need to be standing over them or supervising them, or, I mean, that's the business they're in. But, yeah.
I trust that our CAO and our Public Works manager can figure out how to operationalize this. I think the question before us is, are we gonna go with Simcoe or if we wanna tender out? Councillor Jarvis?
Again, I think we should tender it out, and again, I'm not suggesting that anybody do the job, I'm just saying that somebody needs with knowledge to have a look at it, and I'll use an example that I've seen exhaust fans be suggested that they need fan belts and they're direct drive. And so you've just purchased a fan belt that isn't even used on that piece of equipment. So if we don't have anybody looking over the report with any sort of acumen, then we could be being charged for anything.
Okay. One of the questions I had, Sharon, is that on page halfway through, it's got the total cost of this agreement is $17,009, and on the next page it says payment schedule annually is $5,009.
Right, because it was for a 3-year contract.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's a 3-year contract.
So it's around $6,000 a year, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Excuse me,
Right.
sorry, I had to interject, but if we're going to be going to tender, please do not discuss details of this. It's not fair to them if we're going to somebody else for numbers.
Oops.
Right, we're live.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Gendron, for the reminder. Yes, I was trying to make sense of the numbers. Okay, any other questions, comments, or points of discussion on this? I understand from council then people are wanting us to go to tender. Is that correct, Councillor Gendron?
Sorry, just one other question. Going to tender, it's February. Do we need to enter into some form of agreement for this year and go to tender? Or will we be able to?
We still have the ability to, yeah, for this, because we're not in any existing contract at this time. And so it is preferable to work with a company, so when we're looking at scheduling, without having a contract in place, we do run the risk of time availability for the contractors, right? And so if they know that we're slated through there, so we still can make arrangements for the shutdown without being entered into a contract, as that's what's been happening over the past few years.
Further discussion? All in favor?
No,
we-
we're tendering.
I thought we were doing the,
Are we?
oh,
No,
right, we
not
have to
doing
defeat
it.
this, do we not?
Right, so if we can just table that and then with the post
Okay.
notes of the tender to be issued. So the weed control meeting and the weed inspector appointment will be tabled. I did leave work early this afternoon, not feeling well, and so I was not able to confirm with Public Works Department as to which employee will be designated as the weed inspector. I do have the suspicion we will be looking at the assistant manager for that. But be it hereby resolved that council is authorized to attend the Manitoba Hydro Integrated Resource Plan webinar on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 at 1 p.m.
Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Houle. Seconder, please. Councillor Kozlowski. Sharon, did you want to say anything about this?
So I've just got that on there. It is a webinar and it's just in general for any of council. I'm again putting this on there, trying to add consistency, utilizing the software that we have. Once a meeting has been entered, I can then issue out a meeting reminder or a task to anyone who is interested. So there's an extra reminder of those meetings.
Are people interested in attending this meeting?
I have a commitment. I can't.
Councillor Houle?
I may be able to.
Yeah, so the resolution does read just all
Okay.
of council because it's not an in-person attendance.
Okay.
I will just send the reminder out to council on that item with the link.
Okay. All in favor? Carried.
So Evergreen Festival of the Arts sponsorship request. So I know the discussion to table these items to budget and heard loud and clear with that. However, this item did make reference to something specific that warranted a level of discussion where they say continue to provide support in sponsoring the Town of Winnipeg Beach Trophy. And so recognizing that we have new administrative crew here, the Town of Winnipeg Beach Trophy was a new term for us, and I was just looking at council direction on that, if that is something council is aware of or and thoughts on that. And certainly the decision can be tabled to budget if so choose.
I'm going to defer to Councillor Houle or Councillor Gendron. Are you familiar with this at all, being the only two people who were on council last
Um,
term?
No, but then I was only on council during COVID. So I'm gonna make what I think is probably a fairly reasonable assumption that one of the categories that they present a trophy for, we sponsor, and it's called the Town of Winnipeg Beach Trophy.
Yes, that's,
But yeah,
that's
but no
correct.
recollection of it because like I say,
I
I was
believe
only,
the trophy from Winnipeg Beach, I did a bit of research on this, was for vocals grade 7 and up.
okay.
The Town of Winnipeg Beach Trophy. Councillor Houle, do you have any information on this at all?
I have no recollection of this.
You've not seen the trophy?
I have not seen a trophy.
Okay, just a question.
Okay, so we'll follow up with that. I was just looking for clarification on that, and then we
Okay.
can table that to budget.
Okay.
Be it hereby resolved that the CAO is authorized to sign the amendment agreement number 1 of the municipal gas tax agreement between the town of Winnipeg Beach and the province of Manitoba as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kozlowski? Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Houle? Discussion? Councillor Gendron?
I read it and I was having trouble following it.
So every municipality enters into the municipal gas tax agreement, and they are changing the name from gas tax to community building fund agreement. And so that's the differentiating there. But the original agreement was municipal gas tax agreement, and so under the gas tax agreement, there are only eligible projects and expenditures that that money can be used for.
So is the only change the name?
So the amendment to that is now to permit fire hall buildings as an eligible expense under this project. And so the name change is not required for us. I mean, that's their the federal jurisdiction. So I have the gas tax agreement in there because that is the original agreement as it's listed through there.
Thank you.
So is there anything that you need from us?
I just need authorization to sign an agreement. I can't sign an agreement without resolution of council.
Other questions, comments, points of discussion? Okay, almost. Okay, all in favor?
Be it hereby resolved that council approve Mayor Jackson and other, if need be, to attend the Manitoba Economic Development meeting being held at Okamic Marsh on March 15th, 2023 from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. with no registration fee, out-of-pocket expenses and travel per diem are applicable.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gendron. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jarvis. Discussion. All in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that council moves in camera at 6:24 p.m. to discuss matters that are in the preliminary stages, and be it further resolved that any matters discussed while in camera be held confidential until such time as discussed in open council.
Can the resolution be amended to 7:24?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Mover, please. Councillor Jarvis. Seconder, please. Councillor Gendron. All in favor? Carried.
Well, the mic's on, but the thing froze.
Owl's not on.
It's frozen.
That's from a while ago. The green lights aren't on the owl.
There's no power, it looks like.
Okay.
I figure since it's an area of development, we need to. What the hell was that?
Great Horned Owl.
I have never heard that.
It does that when it turns on.
When it turns on? Does it do that when it turns off too?
E.T. phone
I
home.
have never heard that one.
I thought that was Counselor Hool making a noise.
Okay, well,
Who you love.
sound is on, but the video is not.
No, because the green light's not on. Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, there is sound, so we can probably proceed even just with sound.
It's on now.
That it's recorded.
Be it hereby resolved that council moves out of camera at 8:41 PM and resumes the regular meeting of council.
can I have a mover, please? Counselor Kozlowski. Can I have a seconder, please? Counselor Hool. All in favor? Carried.
So we'll go back to the additions and the committee report updates.
Okay, I just
Oh,
wanted
Counselor
to,
Gendron.
update you all just briefly. January 16th to 18th, I had the pleasure of attending the Red River Basin Commission Conference. I didn't think I'd ever get excited about water, but I was after the couple of days at the conference. A big standout that I think was relative to this community was one of the breakout sessions that I went to, and it was using 2D modeling to accurately estimate runoff peaks in Red River Valley. But the interesting piece of it was the presenter was Hank Venema with Strategic Systems Engineering. I spoke to him after his presentation. He reached out to me. They have a culvert finder and ditch finder. Helps minimize field survey requirements for culvert location, ditch profiles, and more importantly, to provide an overall system map of ditch flows, direction, and surface drainage patterns. So they are putting together a bit of a quote and some detailed information on what the product is, and we'll be sending it to Sharon for discussion with, I am assuming Sharon with Public Works, so that we will have it in time that if there's any consideration or any thought, we will have it before budget meetings to sort of take a look and see if it's something that we think would be beneficial. We have previous council spoke about the fact that we don't have a good handle on our ditches and our drainage, and he felt that based on the size of our community, it would not be an extremely costly adventure, and that they currently are a sole source provider in the area for this type of work. So that was the big takeaway from that one. And then earlier this week, I attended the Manitoba Flood Workshop, Flood of 2022, lessons learned, big takeaways. As the fellow at my table from Manitoba Hydro said, this is way over my head. It was a lot of technical information, but I think probably the biggest takeaway was they had some presenters from Indigenous communities who talked about the impact of flooding on Indigenous communities, and They spoke early in the day, and it made it a little bit difficult to muster up a lot of empathy for other communities after you heard about what they were faced with. They're not entitled to flood insurance because they're technically deemed that they don't own the land they're on, and the government doesn't have it insured. So when you're normally in what's considered a tenant landlord agreement, your landlord at least has the house insured, but no, their properties aren't insured. People taken out of their community, and kids that are born while their families are living in hotels, and then 5, 6, 7 years later they go try to take them back into their community, and they're crying that they want to go home, and they think that home is a hotel. Addictions being brought back into their communities, gang behavior and gang connection being brought back into the community. So it was a real eye-opener about the social impact of flooding, which isn't often talked about or thought about. It's always about the financial. So that was definitely a big takeaway from that day. So just wanted to, given that the town is funding my participation in these, I just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback on what was
Wonderful, thank you.
happened.
Any questions for Councilor Gemma? Thank you.
Whereas subdivision application 4465-18-7786 was provided conditional approval by resolution 54-2019, and whereas one of the conditions states the applicant/owner enter into a development agreement with the town of Winnipeg Beach as per section 135, section 3 of the Planning Act, and whereas there have been several negotiations in regards to the terms presented at the aforesaid development agreement, and whereas the town solicitor received a letter dated February 14th, 2023 requesting additional verbiage changes, therefore be it resolved that council approve the following amendments: recitals A, section 4.B, 13AI, 13D, and a portion of 14C, and further be it resolved that council rejects all other amendments, and be it further resolved that no additional changes to the development agreement will be considered.
Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Jarvis. Can I get a seconder, please? Councilor Gemma. Call the question. No discussion, all in favor? Carried.
Be it hereby resolved that the regular meeting of council held February 22nd, 2023 be adjourned at 8:40 or 8:50 p.m.
Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Kozlowski. Seconder, please. Councilor Rowe. All in favor?